In this video, I'm going to go over all of the great things that the small surf town of Tamarindo has to offer, but I'll also cover some of the not so great things that I experienced, and some of those things just might be a deal breaker for some people. I'll also share some tips and essential information that I picked up from our recent trip, so definitely stick around to the end for that. Located in Central America between Nicaragua and Panama, and only about 665 miles from the equator, the small country of Costa Rica has a population of about 5.2 million people, which is about the same size in population as the countries of New Zealand and Ireland. Costa Rica would be a small state if it were in the US, with a landmass of less than 20,000 square miles. Costa Rica has 132 miles of Caribbean coastline to the east and 631 miles of Pacific coastline to the west. The small town of Tamarindo is located on the Pacific coast side of Costa Rica and was just a very small sleepy village up until the late 1980s. In 1994, Tamarindo was featured in the surfing movie The Endless Summer 2, and from there the tourists began to come. Today, most, if not all, of Tamarindo's shops, restaurants, and establishments are owned by Americans or foreign expats, and hardly any Costa Ricans live in the small town. This is because the cost of living in this area is much higher than the inland areas, especially after COVID. Most locals work 40 to 60 hours a week and make between about $600 and $800 a month, and that's the lucky ones. Tamarindo is located in the Guanacaste region of Costa Rica, and as I was told by a local, has basically two seasons, mud season and dust season. Almost half of Costa Rica is forest, and it's either protected land or national parks. Here are the top 5 reasons you might want to consider Tamarindo for your next vacation or a trip in the future. Number 1. Tamarindo and the surrounding area has so much to do, and you really don't need a car once you get here. Tamarindo is a great place to learn how to surf. You can hire one of the locals to teach you for about $50, that includes the rental, or you can just rent a surfboard and learn on your own. You can rent a surfboard by the day or by a 4-hour block, and the prices are pretty reasonable. Number 2. Tamarindo is a good beach, but there are even better ones less than an hour away. Playa Conchal is probably the best, especially if you want more of a white sand type. Even though Conchal is more shells than sand, it has the feeling of a white sand beach, and it makes the water more turquoise in color. The one downside to Conchal is that you cannot go directly there. You will have to park and walk from Brasilito Beach to the north, or park at Puerto Viejo to the south and walk for about 15 minutes. Another option is to buy a day pass at the Westin. That way you can enjoy Conchal Beach and the Westin's pools and amenities. The day passes will run you $125 per person per day, but make sure to set this up in advance because they offer a limited number of day passes that sell out quickly. If you decide to just park and walk, once you get there, you can rent one of these tents for $20 a day, and you will have people waiting on you all day for food and drinks. They get a little annoying after a while though, because they're on you like every 10 to 15 minutes. I would recommend just bringing some water and snacks. If you want more of a secluded beach, then Playa Minus might be a better choice, because it's more of a locals beach and it's never really crowded. The roads to get there are back roads though, so if it's been raining recently, it might be tough to get there. Number 3. You can find pretty decent and affordable Airbnbs most of the year. We found this 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath unit in the middle of town that came with just about everything from beach chairs, boogie boards, and a cooler for the beach. All this for $397 a night with all taxes and fees. The condo unit we stayed at was called Boca Raca, and it had a very nice balcony and a small shared pool, which was nice for cooling off. Plus we were only a 2-minute walk from the beach. It was also conveniently next door to the open food court El Mercadito and the Argentinian steakhouse Patagonia, which was very good, especially their chimichurri. There was also a little grocery store just around the corner, which made it super easy to run and grab something if we needed it. In comparison, you could stay at one of the nicest hotels right on the beach, the Diria, for about the same price, but you only have a standard hotel room, and that's not very comfortable with 4 people. Number 4. Tamarindo is a very laid-back town, and is pretty safe overall. There are usually lifeguards on duty, and if you look for them, you'll find police roaming around most of the time. The whole beach also faces west, so you get some great sunsets from the beach every night. There are plenty of beachfront restaurants and bars, and they never really seem too crowded around sundown. The nightlife seemed pretty good, however, after long days at the beach and exploring, we never really stayed out past 10 o'clock. Number 5. You can ride horses right on the beach for about $40 to $60 depending on the length of the ride. You can also get a 1-hour massage right on the beach for about $30. However, I need to make some notes about these two things. Most of the horses on the beach are kind of small, so if you're over 200 pounds, I wouldn't ride them. That's just my opinion, but I feel like you're putting too much weight on these small horses, and it's not good for their backs. The locals just want your money, so they'll put you on even if you're over 300 pounds. They really don't care. Another thing to know that the ladies offering massages on the beach are not licensed or legal, and if the police come around, they disappear. The one lady that I used a couple of times said that if the police catch them, they will confiscate their massage tables. The massages themselves feel like most of the ones I've ever had, so don't let that scare you off. If you're a dog lover, you will find dogs roaming free just about everywhere in Costa Rica, and they all seem to be pretty friendly. It's not uncommon to have a dog come sit next to you during dinner wanting your food. This dog that came and sat next to me at the steakhouse would only eat steak. People would offer him chicken and he would turn away. I've never seen such a spoiled, homeless dog. Now let me go over some of the things that I felt were not so good and why you might want to go somewhere else for your next trip. Number 1. I found out not too long after we got there that there's actually crocodiles that live in the estuary that's connected to Tamarindo Beach, and they sometimes make their way out into the ocean. This is right near the main area where people learn to surf, and there have been attacks on people in the past. Now the odds of getting attacked by a croc are pretty low, but they're not zero, and getting attacked by one of these big boys would be a 0 out of 5 stars experience, and I do not recommend. Number 2. Halfway through the first day, I started to get really irritated by all of the people on the beach trying to sell you stuff. They're non-stop, and it's not what I go on vacation to deal with. Most of all the people selling stuff on the beach are actually drug dealers, using the merchandise as a cover. We also constantly felt like the locals were trying to rip us off. There were several occasions where we were overcharged, and it was just one of those things that you just don't want to deal with when you pay a lot of money to be there. Number 3. I was pretty shocked and actually annoyed with how expensive everything is. The food was pretty mediocre and overpriced for what it was. The price just didn't match the atmosphere, if you know what I mean. Some quick examples. For $15, you could get a small bowl of chips and guac, 6 small chicken wings, or a chicken quesadilla, and none of it had much flavor. A basic local beer will run you about $5 to $7, and a mixed drink about $12 to $15. These prices I'm used to seeing in Hawaii. Never expect Costa Rica to be this high. Just be aware, Tamarindo is a tourist town and prices reflect that. You'll even notice high prices in the grocery stores. Number 4. Another thing that some people might not be comfortable with is the heat and humidity, along with the bugs and mosquitoes. Not to mention the giant iguanas that will catch you off guard occasionally. I don't think they'll attack you, but they'll scare the living shit out of you. Number 5. The infrastructure in most of the country is not the best, especially the plumbing system. I was also really surprised by all the safety hazards everywhere, from rusty shipwreck on the beach to gaping holes in the sidewalk, just trip hazards everywhere. You really have to watch yourself with everything you do. Number 6. We consider Tamarindo and most of the beaches in that area to be somewhat of dirty beaches, meaning the sand is very fine and it seems to be mixed with dirt. It's not a fluffy white sand beach that we prefer. It also makes the water look brown and dirty, and it's actually pretty clean. You'll also see horse and dog feces on the beach, which is another thing you have to watch out for. Number 7. I always judge a trip by how easy it is to get in and out and how quick and easy it is to get to your accommodations. The first thing I wasn't crazy about when we arrived at the Guanacaste airport and how long the process of getting the rental car was, is that it takes about an hour and a half drive to get from the airport to Tamarindo, and that's if traffic's good. You can either book a transfer to and from the airport and it will run you about $80 to $110 each way, or you can rent a car. The main roads are 2 lanes and they're paved, but if there's an accident or construction, it can take a lot longer. After a long day of travel, I really wasn't in the mood for the somewhat stressful drive, not to mention I missed a turn and thought it would be okay to take an alternate route off the main roads. Man, I was wrong. The back roads are absolutely terrible, and some are damn near impassable. We came to one part on the road where the ruts were so deep we had to drive up on the side of this little hill to get through, and it was pretty damn sketchy. I had no idea what I was going to do if I blew a tire or got stuck. Needless to say, it ended up taking us over 2 hours. So make sure you always stay on the main roads, especially during the rainy season, or if it's been raining lately. Also, if you have some kind of emergency or a medical emergency, don't expect a rapid response. Here are my top tips if you plan on visiting Tamarindo in the future. Number 1, if you rent a car, make sure the gas pump is at 0 when they pump because you cannot pump your own gas. Another thing to note if you have a rental car is that people stand around public parking areas with these vests on and are basically scammers and have no authority over free public parking areas. They just put the fluorescent vests on and direct you where to park and then say $10 to park here. Don't pay them anything. If they harass you, just call the police and they will scatter like roaches. You will have to deal with them if you go to Conchal Beach to park because they're all over that Brasalito Beach area. It's even on all the Google reviews. Number 2, that leads me to another tip that I learned while I was there. If you ever get in trouble, just dial 911 and tell them you're a tourist. They have special tourist police that travel in pairs and speak multiple languages, and they are there to help and protect tourists. Number 3, only book excursions through the reputable sites and don't book with people on the beach, including surf lessons. If you plan excursions of the waterfalls and stuff around Arnall Volcano, just be aware that this area is at least 3 hours drive away from Tamarindo, so plan on spending at least 6 hours on a van or bus which may or may not have AC. I would recommend just staying in that area for a day or two and not doing excursions from Tamarindo. Number 4, check your bill closely wherever you go. Some places won't even give you a breakdown of the charges, but make sure you ask for it. Number 5, make sure anytime you're eating outside that you're sitting around or near fans for air movement. It will help keep the bugs and flies away. Number 6, since you can't flush your used toilet paper, I would bring a pack of dude wipes. It will just make things a little better. Number 7, don't forget to bring sunscreen from home or you'll be shelling out $20 to $30 for a bottle in Tamarindo.